you're taking these actions and you've got these beautiful synchronicities lining up. Talk to us about how business started to change, particularly how you approached business. So you embraced it for work and everything, but what did you notice shift from how you used to run your business to when you were embracing this orientation?
Mm. Well, I think like I was talking about the painting before, my way of doing business used to be about achieving. I have to achieve business, and there's milestones and there's KPIs and there's things to hit targets on. And also dysfunctionally, I wasn't a great leader because I also had to out achieve everybody in my team, which is not how a leader should work, right? It's not very functional. You need your team to be better than you at all the things that they're good at, and you just orchestrate it and direct it, right? So that it has been a revelation for me get go from doing this work in this way. That's the first thing I would say. What about you?
Yeah, well, I think thing that I've noticed, because I haven't been in business since I was an electrician many years ago, but what I've noticed about our business and it coming together was that every step of the way was very guided, very intuitive. There was a lot of unknown. It was we were leaning in constantly to new ideas. Let's do this, and we'd have these inspirations and we'd just go with it. And people would get a lot out of it, and then we'd do it again and they get a lot out of that. So there was a lot of, we were very willing to be with the discomfort of the unknown. But that allowed us also to be in a space where we could continually receive our intuitive steps, sort of thing. And we did that many times over as the business grew. And because we were running with our intuitive steps, it never let us down, and the business just continued to sort of unfold out of itself. And it was more of a magical experience. It was like we were getting out of the way and no longer, forcing and controlling what needed to happen, but rather we were receiving what needed to happen and putting it into action, putting it out there. And there's a level of like uncertainty about that, I can tell you, in an ongoing way. But over that period of the uncertainty, you start to form a new relationship with the tension that comes up. You start to see how it serves you really well, and it serves others really well when you're willing to be with tension and let that bring forth information, that can really guide you well. So,
and I think for me, as you're talking about that, as those things unfold, in the past and even at the beginning of working in this way, I would get very emotionally involved with it and be like, oh, what does this mean? If I have to do this, what's it going to mean? And how am I going to create that? And what's it going to mean about me if I don't create it? Or if we got an intuitive nudge to take something that was very successful and take it out and say, no, we're not doing that anymore, which happened a couple of times as well. It's like, oh, this is successful. What are we doing? Why are we getting rid of that? But again, if you're either all in with your intuition or you're not, and if you're not, and you're doing a half, you're gonna get yourself burnt. There's gonna be consequences to that. So if you're all in, whatever comes up, it's like, well, that's what we're doing. And what I've learned, obviously through more and more references of how intuition really doesn't let you down. It's you that let yourself down when you don't follow it or you don't even ask for it in the first place. That's a really big thing. So I've learned to get less emotional with those things. Occasionally my ego will still, like any other human being, will still try to ramp up and argue against or argue for this way or that way. But the fact of the matter is that once you get it, it's like getting the orders from the boss. Just that's it. That's what we're doing now, or that's what we're not doing now. And I don't know why, but I don't need to know why. People will ask me why, and I often say, I don't know. And they look at me like, it's your business. You should know why. It's like, I don't know. I don't know why. It's just like, don't catch the damn check. Just don't.
Yeah.
just follow what you get.
It's so funny. I've been saying that to people when I end up in random towns on my travels at the moment. They go, why are you in Getafe in Spain? No Australians or Americans come here. And I say, if you ask me in a few days, I might be able to tell you. And we always have a laugh about it. And I'm just honest with them. I go, I do an intuitive process, and I got told to come here and just going with
Mhm.
it. They go, God,
Yeah.
that's and it's interesting. I always used to think people are going to think I'm a wacko, but everyone's like, that's kind of cool. I wish I could do
Yeah, that's right.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it actually, where you think you're gonna be called out as a weirdo, they actually are quite admiring you and going, "I wish I could do that," right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's incredible the chatter that the ego throws up. Um, with money at that time, and you're using this process. Were the money stresses still there? And if they were, how did you guys neutralize that, that familiar psych tension that everyone knows when the finances are there? Because that's the bane of the business owner's existence. How do I get non-emotional about money?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you wanna answer first?
Well, I mean, initially, it became about structure, but initially, for me personally, it was about identifying what I was saying no to in my life and hadn't even really acknowledged that, but when I got to that, we moved and we got to that point where it's like, man, this is all not looking real good. This is back, in that when we initially moved down south, down to Phillip Island. And when it was looking pretty grim, it was like, well, this work that we teach, that we weren't really teaching it that much at that
Not that
stage.
much, no, we're doing a
But
bit.
yeah, a little bit, but this work that we're about, it needs to work. So if it's going to work, it's going to need to work now. And so we just agreed that let's just ride this thing to the ground if we have to, but to find out whether it actually does work or not, so that if it doesn't, we can just move on and stop mucking around with this stuff that doesn't work. And so we both really committed to that. And in that moment, I just asked myself, not seeing, what am I not saying, what am I saying no to in my life that's having me avoid my financial abundance, my flow. And it was like, well, you got experience in this particular field in the disabilities area, and you've been saying no to that for years because you used to find it really stressful, the particular field that I work in. And so, like, well, bugger that, no more no. So I checked out some ads, and it's like within a week, I had this new job that was less than it was like really just like exactly in the field that I had the most experience in, and it was spot on. And but the difference was that now I was saying yes, but I was saying yes to this new job, but I was also at that time saying yes to my truth. So I was
Mm,
taking the job in support of what I was looking to create and we were looking to create. And so then the money started to flow. And that was enough just to, with both of us, it was enough for us to start to really inject our heart and soul into building our business, sort of thing. And so over the next probably just over a year, it started all come together, and it got to that point where we couldn't both have our jobs and our business because the business was demanding too much. It was thriving. So it was an easy and obvious choice to make, but it wasn't, for me, it wasn't me running away anymore. And, from another job, it was like, let's serve me really well. And I'm really grateful. It was a fantastic experience. And now it's time to step more into the business that we've created. So,
Yeah. But I think the big key point in that whole story was the moment we decided that we're all in.
yeah,
We're all in on the alchemy. And I think the words you used were, I'm going to ride this flaming ball of shit to the ground
that was
if I have
precisely.
to. And I said, move over. I'm coming on as well. So we did it. And we, as you said, we went to work, we came home, we'd like quickly change or stuff something in our faces and sit down and start doing coaching calls or Hearts True reading calls or run a class or, and we just built the energy and the love and the passion for what we were doing. And then by the end, it was just like, yeah, it's just obvious. Now it's time to step off this work and just full time into the business. And
Yeah.
from that point forward, we've never looked back. And I've broken a cycle that I've had for up to that point 25 years of boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust. That's what I did through business the whole time. And here we are, what, 7 years, no, not quite 7 years later since that whole thing, but 4 years later, and we're not doing that anymore. We just don't play the game of boom and bust. It's just constant guided evolution.
And so that was that facet. But what soon came in after that, we developed a structure that we used to bring ourselves through and beyond our credit card debt. Was kind of one of those really debilitating things for us. It's just like, man, and we couldn't seem to break it. It's like we both had our kind of level that our credit cards would continually climb to. If we paid them down, they'd be bang back up again. It's like, oh, well, I thought we were good. So we put together a new structure, and we stuck to that structure. And what we noticed was that that's another thing that changed financially for us, was this 10, 15-year cycle of not being able to break through this repetitive thing with our finances. We could, and we did, and that's another thing we didn't look back on either, ever since we started using this Money River structure. And it's because that structure is completely aligned with natural forces and principles that we teach. And it's a structure designed, obviously, for money, but particularly what it does is allows you to not need to be emotional when it comes to money. Because when we're emotional around money, that's when we experience all this wacky stuff that's not what we want. And when we can let go of the emotion and just work with money in a structural way as the energy that it is, we can start to see it flow.